The man in the shop was already dead. He just hadn't stopped breathing yet. Elias looked at the grandfather clock in the corner of his Prague workshop. It wasn't ticking. Instead, it was whispering his name in a voice that sounded like grinding gears and old secrets. Years ago, Elias had made a deal with a man who smelled of ozone and ancient parchment. In exchange for the steadiest hands in Europe, Elias promised to repair the Chronos Key. He didn't know the key wasn't meant to fix a clock, but to unlock a moment in time. The door chimes rang, but no one entered. The air grew thick, smelling of burnt copper and rain. Elias reached for his loop, but his hands, once his greatest asset, were shaking violently. The debt was due, and the collector had finally arrived at the doorstep. "Is it finished?" A voice echoed from the shadows behind the pendulum. Elias didn't turn around. He knew if he saw the face of the collector, he would lose his mind. He focused on the tiny, golden cog on his velvet tray, the heart of a machine that shouldn't exist. Almost, Elias whispered. He felt a cold pressure on his shoulder, like a hand made of dry ice. The shadows in the shop began to stretch, crawling up the walls like ink spilled on silk. Every clock in the room suddenly began to run backward at a frantic speed. He saw his own life flashing in the reflections of the glass cases. He saw himself as a child, then as an old man, then as a blur of light. The Chronos Key was vibrating, heating up until it turned a glowing, violent violet. It was eating the time around them. "You lied to me," Elias choked out. "This isn't a tool. It's an anchor." He realized the collector didn't want the key to fix history. He wanted to freeze it, trapping the entire city in a single, infinite second of terror where he would be the only god. The pressure on his shoulder tightened. "Finish it, or I will weave your heartbeat into the gears forever." Elias looked at the cog. He had one chance to sabotage the mechanism. He didn't need to fix the clock. He needed to make it explode. With a final, desperate movement, he jammed a silver pin into the mainspring. The violet light turned a blinding white. A sound like 1,000 windows shattering erupted through the workshop. The collector screamed, the sound of metal tearing, and was pulled into the light. When Elias opened his eyes, the shop was silent. The stranger was gone. The clocks had stopped entirely, their hands frozen at the exact moment of the blast. He looked at his hands. They were steady again, but they were now as white and cold as polished marble. He walked to the window. Outside, the streets of Prague were perfectly still. A bird was frozen mid-flight above the cobblestones. A woman was caught in the act of dropping a coin. He had stopped the collector, but he had accidentally stopped everything else too. He was the only thing moving in a world made of statues. The silence was absolute, a heavy weight that pressed against his eardrums. He had saved the future by erasing it. Now, he was the lone inhabitant of a city where the sun would never set again. He returned to his workbench and picked up the silver pin. He could hear a faint, rhythmic thumping beneath the floorboards. It wasn't a clock. It was the city's heart, struggling to beat against the frozen air. He wasn't a hero. He was the new jailer of time. Elias sat in his chair and waited. He had all the time in the world, and for a clockmaker, that was the ultimate curse. He picked up a tiny screw and began to work on a new project. He was going to build a way back, even if it took 1,000 years of silence.